Today's episode starts in a place you've probably stood more times than you can count. The vending machine. The refrigerator. The convenience store cooler glowing under fluorescent lights. You reach in and pause. Silver can or black can. Diet Coke or Coke Zero. Same brand. Same promise. Zero sugar. Zero calories. And yet, choosing between them feels weirdly important, like you're declaring allegiance to one side or the other. If they're both sugar-free Coca-Cola products, why do they exist side by side? Why do they taste different? And why do people defend their favorite like it's a personality trait? Stick with me, because once you see how these two drinks were created, you'll realize this isn't just about soda. It's about chemistry, culture, and how companies quietly shape our choices through flavor and identity. To understand the difference, we have to rewind to a time before Coke Zero even existed. The early 1980s were a strange moment in food history. Diet culture was exploding. Low-fat, low-calorie, sugar-free products were suddenly everywhere. People wanted indulgence without consequences, and companies rushed to deliver it. In 1982, Coca-Cola made a bold move. For nearly a century, the Coca-Cola formula had been treated like sacred ground. You didn't mess with it. You didn't extend it. You didn't put the name on anything that wasn't the original. But that year, Coca-Cola broke its own rule and launched Diet Coke. It wasn't just a diet version of Coke. That's the key detail most people miss. Diet Coke was built from a different formula entirely, more closely related to Tab, an earlier diet soda. The Coca-Cola name was added for trust, not for flavor continuity. From day one, Diet Coke was designed to be its own drink, not a carbon copy of the original. That decision shaped everything that came after. Diet Coke wasn't meant to replace Coca-Cola. It was meant to live alongside it. The flavor was lighter, crisper, and sharper. It had a slight citrus edge and a thinner mouthfeel. And for millions of people, that flavor became familiar, comforting, even addictive. Over time, Diet Coke stopped being diet soda and became simply Diet Coke, a category of one. By the late 1980s and 1990s, it wasn't just successful. It was iconic. Offices ran on it. Road trips were fueled by it. For an entire generation, the silver can wasn't a compromise. It was the default. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and Coca-Cola faced a different problem. Younger consumers, especially men, weren't buying diet soda. Research showed that the word diet carried baggage. It sounded restrictive, clinical, even vaguely embarrassing. People wanted 0 calories, but they didn't want to announce it. At the same time, many consumers said they liked the idea of Diet Coke, but not the taste. It didn't taste like Coca-Cola to them. It tasted like something else pretending to be Coke. That gap is where Coke Zero was born. Introduced in 2005, Coke Zero wasn't trying to be a new flavor. It was trying to be an illusion. The pitch was simple and aggressive. This is Coke, but without the sugar. No diet. No compromise. No apology. This is where chemistry enters the story. Both drinks are sugar-free. Both contain 0 calories. But they are sweetened differently, and that difference changes everything. Diet Coke uses aspartame as its primary sweetener. Aspartame is intensely sweet, around 200 times sweeter than sugar, but it behaves differently on the tongue. It builds slowly and lingers. That lingering sweetness contributes to Diet Coke's distinctive aftertaste, the one people either love or hate. Coke Zero, by contrast, uses a blend of aspartame and ace-sulfame potassium, often called ACE-K. Ace-K hits fast and fades quickly. Aspartame fills in the back end. Together, they create a sweetness curve that more closely mimics sugar. It rises quickly, peaks, and then drops off, just like regular Coca-Cola. The rest of the ingredient list looks almost identical on paper. Carbonated water. Caramel color. Phosphoric acid. Caffeine. Natural flavors. But formulation isn't just about what's in the drink. It's about ratios, timing, and interaction. Small adjustments in acidity and sweetness dramatically change how a drink feels in your mouth. Diet Coke is brighter and more acidic. Coke Zero is rounder and heavier. One feels sharp and refreshing. The other feels smooth and familiar. This is why people can often identify Diet Coke instantly, even blindfolded, while Coke Zero sometimes fools people into thinking it's the real thing. Taste, though, is only half the story. The other half is psychology. Diet Coke and Coke Zero weren't just formulated differently. They were marketed as different identities. Diet Coke leaned into elegance and restraint. Its branding was clean, minimalist, and confident. It didn't shout. It didn't need to. Coke Zero did the opposite. Early ads emphasized intensity, boldness, and rebellion. The black label wasn't subtle. It was deliberate. It signaled that this wasn't your parents' diet soda. This was Coke, rewritten for a generation that wanted the benefits without the label. In 2017, Coca-Cola made another quiet but significant shift. Coke Zero was rebranded as Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. The formula was adjusted again, slightly closer to classic Coke. The packaging became more red, more familiar, more aligned with the flagship brand. This wasn't an accident. Coca-Cola was sending a message. Zero Sugar wasn't a side product anymore. It was part of the core family. Diet Coke, meanwhile, stayed exactly what it had always been. Same flavor. Same identity. Same loyal audience. So which one is better? That's the wrong question. The better question is which one you've trained your brain to prefer. If you grew up with Diet Coke, Coke Zero might taste oddly sweet or heavy. If you're used to Coke Zero, Diet Coke might taste thin or sharp. Neither is objectively superior. They're optimized for different palates and different expectations. One isn't trying to be Coke. The other is trying very hard to be nothing but Coke. There's something quietly fascinating about the fact that both exist at all. In theory, Coca-Cola could have replaced Diet Coke years ago. But it didn't. Because taste isn't just chemistry. It's memory. Habit. Identity. For millions of people, Diet Coke isn't a substitute. It's the drink. Removing it would feel like erasing a small but meaningful ritual from daily life. Coke Zero, on the other hand, exists to solve a different problem. How do you let people keep loving Coca-Cola without paying the sugar price? So the next time you're standing in front of that vending machine, frozen between silver and black, you're not just choosing a soda. You're choosing between two philosophies. One says it's okay to be different. The other says the original is perfect, just lighter. Both are zero sugar. Both are 0 calories. But they tell very different stories. And now, finally, you know exactly what those stories are. If you've got a question you can't stop thinking about, drop it in the comments. We might just turn it into our next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around. Because sometimes the smallest choices hide the biggest stories.